Okay, let's talk a little bit about presentations, because I have seen some good, I've seen some bad, and I've seen some really ugly presentations. And I'll tell you a little deal. The REM, I talked to him, Greg Delanis, I said, look, our AEs they do not know how to demonstrate anything. They do not know how to show a box. I said, let's do an example. I gave everybody 2 weeks notice. Here's the scenario. You're sitting in the office with a laptop in your lap, and somebody walks by and says, you know, I've heard a lot about that Apple laptop. Could you show it to me? That was the scenario. It was a bloodbath. I had every AE get up and do the demo in front of their peers. It was like, I had the machine, I'm talking, you know, they don't know what to do. They don't stay and go here to here to here to here. Very organized presentation. If you do it over and over again, as you guys do, you know the next step. You know what you're going to do. You know we can say something, somebody's going to laugh. You know your deal. AEs didn't know that. So it's up to us to help the AEs with these demonstrations because they just don't know. And they don't take the time to do it. So anyway, we didn't critique the people on the demos. We made it very positive. That was Greg. I wish they'd turn me loose. So I was very disappointed in what I saw. Presentations. Okay, setup time. Are the AEs giving us the right time to set up? Some of my SEs get the call, be there at 8. That's when the dadgum presentation starts. Walk in at 8, well, maybe 11. That's a 4-hour drive. But 8 o'clock they show up, and all of a sudden they have to, you know, the customers are walking in. How embarrassing. The customers are walking in the door, okay? And I went down to Florida, I think it was Florida. I'm sitting there on I'm watching the presentation, and the AE shows up with the carts. I mean, it was a mess. The whole thing was a mess on the setup because they did not plan. They had the SE there. The SEs were ready to go. They didn't have the keys to get into the room at 8 o'clock or whatever time. And the customers were coming, and there was nobody to greet the customers. So the whole thing on the deal is we have to be more professional in these events that we do. Okay? 2 things that I noticed on that setup time was we need, it's sort of getting a little bit off of setup time, but we need somebody at the door to greet them. Tell them to come over to the refreshments. Let the SE set up and get everything ready. Instead, the SE's trying to run out and do that because he sees a customer come in, and all of a sudden the AE is just sort of like talking to the other AE. I had an instance where I had this event, nothing, and I'm gonna let y'all are very lucky because I would have told you to shut your laptops, but I don't ever let them up in a meeting or an event. I sit back in the room and I have asked RMs to leave the room. How embarrassing it is to have customers sitting in the room watching a presentation, and the RM and the salespeople and sometimes the SE and me all back on our computers. That's rude, downright rude. So now when I go to the events, I tell the guys, leave the room. If you have to do something, leave the room to do it. So, I mean, we got to teach the AEs. They can't sit back there and be doing it. That's their customers.
They also should be present in the room. I mean,
Should
they
be,
can.
right.
Yeah.
You're a good lead into what I was going to say.
I did a big presentation last week, 1,000 units. 1,000 units on the line, and the AE was missing in action. I had to call the AE on her cell phone to bring her into the meeting because they asked questions for her.
Listen,
Well, we know it's down to 2.
same meeting.
Yeah,
I went
right.
down to.
Lisa or
They had 5 AEs there, combination of high ed and K-12. I think 5. Only 1 AE sit with the customers. I had to ask the AEs to go out in the hallway and talk. The SE's trying to give a presentation, and they don't have the courtesy. You know, they're sitting to ask them to leave twice. Then lunchtime came. Not one of those AEs sit in the room and ate with the customer except that one. Wow. Then I thought I'd do something else. I passed a yellow pad around, and I said, you know, everybody write your name down your emails. Just wanted to see how long it would take for somebody to ask me for that list. You know what? I still got that list.
wow.
So all that money we spent, all that time we spent went awry. So basically, when I talk about presentations, I get a little, as you can see, a little fired up on that. Introductions. I want to watch this. Somebody comes in and thank you very much. We're glad we're here. So let's talk about, woo, right into it, right? Why not go in and say, you know, you do the introduction with the people, we know that, but let people know why they're there. This AE has set up a meeting, and in that meeting, he may have gone out, not the AE, the superintendent or somebody, and invited some people that don't know why they're coming. So the best thing to do is sit down and say, you know, I'd like to bring everybody up to date on why we're here. I talked to Superintendent Jack, and we talked about, you know, going into the 21st century, learning, whatever, okay? Bring them all into the fold. Let them know what's going on. Now, a trick I use to salespeople, as an old sales guy, I would always say, you know, you set some criteria for me, and if I, you know, manage to show you all that criteria today, can you give me an order today? Now, the reason I ask that question, everybody will look at the decision maker every time. Every time. Every time. Then I know who the true decision maker in the room is.
That's good.
Now, you do that with a little, just kidding. You do it, but you got what you wanted. You got that person. So the introductions are very, very key. The next one I've noticed is time limits. How much time do we have? You know, the AE may never told you only have 30 minutes. You've got to really communicate with him. But how many times you get in there? One presentation we're in, the SE was doing a fantastic job. And this lady started handling. She says, you know, I wish you'd get to the meat of things. I had to leave in 10 minutes. Guess what? She was the decision maker. So all of a sudden, what does he do? He did what his initially don't ever do. He's got his slides. What does he do? He starts hitting that button. He's lost the crowd.
Yeah.
Lost it. When that happens, what do? Shut down the slides and start talking on it.
Yeah.
Start giving examples. I don't care what, I mean, it's called tap dancing. You've got to do something because, man, once you get into flipping the slides, you've lost your people. Your professionalism just went. Not true. Practice. You know, I try to tell the AEs in my territory when I can work with them on a one-to-one, I say, you know, take the MacBook. Take the MacBook, you know, and learn how to demonstrate. Dress it like a child. Let it like And what you want to do, you want to start at one place. You start over here. Why do we have this here? Because we don't put them in backpacks and cram everything in. We have all these features, feature, function, and a benefit. Here's the feature, here's the function, it's the benefit. It's not going to be pulled off the desk. Here's the back. Why? You're not going to jam paper clips all up in your machine like the Dells and all the others. What's over here? Now what have I done? I start, I'm coming all the way around, and yet, sir, you haven't seen the best. The best is the software, and that's on the inside. And then you start going into whatever you want to do. Okay? That, and all you got to do is practice. You do it over and over again, and every time you go out, you'll do it. Do your moms, do your daddies, everybody, the kids. But once the AEs understand that and do that, and you can help them do that. Sit down, show them how to not bounce all over the place, but just go around it. You know, some other real cool things too. It's a little dicey, tricky, but I've done it a couple times with superintendents. We'll go through the demo, and then I have a digital camera. And I say, is that your digital camera back there? He said, yep. I says, do you have some pictures? And I got 2 or 3. I said, are they okay? First time I didn't ask if they were okay, then I realized it better. So anyway, I get the camera, and just to show how powerful our machine is, our computer is, I plug it in and load up his pictures. Now what have I just done? Well, maybe. Well, that's why you asked. But once the guy saw how easy it was to load those pictures in, now I can show iMovie, I can drag and drop, I can do all the great things I want to do with iLife with his pictures. It's simple. You know, or you can bring your own, you know, with your pockets, just stick in a couple of pictures, because then you're live, and there you go. But you got to practice that, you can't go wing that. So that was the other thing I was talking about. Okay, let's get into a little selling. This is where you guys and girls can be the best of ever. Selling is the simplest thing in the world. And if you go with this model here, you will always, you can sell newspapers, you can sell encyclopedias, Bibles, computers, and software. First thing that you always have to do with the customer is earn the right. You have to earn the right. When you meet somebody for the first time, do you realize there's an invisible shield between the two of you? You don't see it, it's like a windshield. And what your objective is as a salesman is to say the right things to get that windshield lowered just a little bit. Okay? Life insurance salesman, he comes over to your house. What do you got in front of him? Maybe 2 windshields, right? That's exactly the way the salesperson is. You have to get that down. You have to make those statements that you need to be said to bring it down. Once you earn the right, okay, then you get into salesperson awareness. Okay? Now what you're doing here, you have to be aware of what the problem is. And these 5 categories here, you can spend a half a day on each of these in training on how to professionally sell. So I'm not going to do that. Salesperson awareness is, that's where we get into asking the questions. We're going to talk about that in a minute. What type of questions you ask? How do you ask those questions? Okay? How do you follow through with those questions? Once you're aware of what the problem is, you now make the customer aware of what you have understood and what that solution is. Now we get involved in the first 3. And you know, we give the solution to the AE, he does most of the selling. But from our standpoint, from an SC standpoint, we earn the right with that customer, the IT director, whoever. Okay? We do sales awareness. We're finding out, maybe that could be SE awareness. We can find out what's going on, and we make the customer aware of some of the problems that we have. It's a very simple process that you go through. When I was dating, what was that? 2, 3 years ago. 71. No, I was dating her. I had to earn the right. I had to earn the right of that young lady. And then I asked her questions about herself. She told me all about herself. She likes movies. She likes this. She likes this. She likes this. Oh, now I'm coming back to the solution and comparison. I can talk to
What's
her
the
now.
close? Yeah.
Oh, if you like this movie, you like that, you go there and you do. So what I have done is the same thing. It's selling. There's that process.
Lie to her.
I will tell you a story about my son. My son was, as all kids are, about the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. They're all awkward, you know. They got braces, you know, glasses. I mean, it's a tough time. He wanted to date, and he didn't know how to date a girl. He didn't know what to say, didn't know what to ask, didn't know what to do. So I sat down one day and I said, okay. I said, sit down and write down 10 girls' names on a sheet of paper. And write down their telephone numbers. Okay, 10 and 10, right? Now, where do you want to go on this day? Write that down. A movie, okay, movie. What's the name of the movie? What time does it start? Well, he said, why is that? He says, well, first thing when you're doing the same as call, sales call, you got to have total focus on what you're doing. And I says, 3 things are going to happen. One's going to say, yes, I'd love to go. One's going to say no. And one's going to say rain check. The no, you don't call back anymore. So your odds are good for you. 10 girls. So he calls them up, and sure enough, you know, he gets a no, gets a couple rain checks. But what he didn't go through all that chit chat. You know, he had a focus, he had an objective. He said, you know, this is where we want to go. Going to the movie at 6:30 at night. Would you like to go? And she's got to say what, yes or no. So anyway. Once he got over that, he started really getting into dating.
Thousand names.
He's on number 4,000.
It's the same thing when salespeople have to make their cold calls, which a lot of you don't have to do. They have sales reluctance. The first thing they do, they come in, they sit down at the table. I'm going to call 25 people today. Man, I can't wait. And you're not going to make 25 people. All you're going to do is start calling your friends. Yeah, that's it. Hey, buddy, what are you doing? Oh, you got call reluctance today. You can't make cold calls today, kid. What happens, you start moving the stack of paperwork from here over to here. Look at it. And and a whole day is wasted. You have to have everything off your desk, you have to have your customer's name and your telephone numbers, and then you can make a full call. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So I think this is the steps, but those things that we have to do as SEs in the field, we have to gather that information and deliver that information back to the AE to help him sell. And the RMs, the SE managers, we're not there every day to watch what's going on between the SE and the AE. You guys are, we are here. I mean, who's been here a year? I mean, all of us in this room been 10, 15, and 20 years. Look at your sales reps. They're going to turn, they churn. They're coin operated. Drop a nickel in. They're ready to go. They're ready to sell. We're always there. So we have to take those new rookies and bring them in and help them with this kind of stuff. For some of them have never been through this training or some sort of a sales training. So, tools to be a successful salesman. It's your ears and your mouth. Ears and mouth. First one is listening. How many times you ask a question and you answer, you ask a question and you answer it yourself instead of letting the customer answer? Are you interrupting? Ask the question. Let them talk. You've got to learn to listen. I'm just as guilty of, I'll be talking to Christian and Scott, the three of us will be talking, and I've got an idea and I'll butt right in. I'll butt in. I interrupt. That's so rude. But yet, I just do it. I'm old, and I know if I don't do it right then, I'm going to forget it. So I have to jump in real quick. So anyway, got that. So listening is crucial to everything. I was going to do an exercise, but didn't have time. I was going to talk over here and just let everybody listen in your ears to see
That would have been
what was gonna
interesting.
say.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you,
You don't want to.
yeah, I know I don't. Because I know the jokes you guys be all full of. So this one here, though, is key. This is key. Asking open questions. I call it the Kipling 6 horsemen: who, what, where, when, how. Okay? Ask them, but shut up. Ask, how are you going to do that? Why are you going to do that? Does it matter? Just let them talk. Now, the best person, the best questioning guy that I have ever heard in my life is, who would you think? He's on TV. Who would you say?
Larry King.
Larry King's good. This is even better. Columbo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Watch Columbo. He asks the question, and then he reflects what you're saying, or he'll walk out. What you're saying is you don't like my computer? No? He reflects on his question. It's like I mentioned apple pie right now. Every one of us in this room has a different picture of an apple pie. If you don't use reflective questioning, bringing you and the customer back closer together and this far apart at the end of the deal, and you can think you're right on target. So you have to completely reflect. Is this what are we together to do? Ask the open questions. Let those answers flow in. Don't, a lot of people try to ask a question and you're thinking about the next question.
Right.
You can't do it. You gotta let the person answer it. And then reflective questioning technique is a great way to hesitate while you're thinking of the next question. Well, what you're saying, sir, because you got him talking back again, but you're verifying what you're saying. So remember Columbo. I just think the world of Columbo and his questioning techniques.
For the under 40 set, that might be Gil Grissom.
Oh, okay. Oh, I forgot about that. The other one is this one here, handling objections.
Yep.
Okay. Objections are usually a body motive. Sometimes you don't realize that they're asking the question because you missed something. You missed something that's going. And handling objections is you got to validate that objection. You have to isolate it, and then you have to handle it. But you can do it in several different ways. Again, reflect. Well, what you're saying, sir, is you're saying the price is too high. Well, why is that? Get the look that Columbo has. A little quizzical, a little foxy. It's nothing wrong with being humble and just ask that question to really see what is going on. That'll happen. there's a lot of different ways in my selling career I have found out. But I lost sales by not asking the right question and handling the objection. And what I did, anytime I lost a sale, I would always ask the customer, why did I lose the sale? And I saved several because I missed a certain point. Oh, that is why I missed the sale. Sir, can I come back and start this thing over again? I'm sorry. Always ask why you lost. Why did we lose the sale? But once we know that, we get better, we get sharper, we're on target. So, as we continue on, any questions on some of this? I know a lot of you have heard a lot of this stuff, but the other one is territory management. A good AE schedule. I see salespeople, they're just all over the place. And when they're all over the place, guess what? We're all over the place. You know, not good communication, not good, keeping involved, what's going on with all of this stuff. But I look at a good schedule, this is the way I used to work. I used to have a pad, and I take the yellow pad, and I put down my 5 cold calls that I was gonna do every day. Oh, I could have done 10, could have done 15, but reasonable, I'm gonna do 5. If I do 5 every Monday, that means I've got 20 for the month. Okay? I would have those calls, then I had my follow-up, the things I had to do. But I would have that paper with the customer and the names I was gonna call without any other distractions. You've gotta do it, because otherwise nobody likes to make a cold call. You'll get that call, and the next one is like, and the next thing you're on. So I used to do that, then I would have my follow-up, then I had to get out in the field to do my face-to-face. And then I had another one that I taught all my salespeople. I want 4 items on their sheet of paper. The 4th one was personal time. Everybody looked at me like, you're telling you guys to take personal time during the day? Guys, we can't go 10 hours a day. You know, if you plan your day, you know where you're going, and you like to fish, that's your, that may be 10 minutes to go look at a fishing rod, just to, get away from this stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of salespeople don't think that. They'll kill themselves. You gotta take back, you gotta sit back, you gotta relax. SE schedule, how this, these two sort of go together. I'm finding out that in my team, there's a lot of, especially in acquisition, there's a lot of running around. When the road warriors started, they were booking calls, and some of the calls that they booked, the AE never did a call before they went. They drive 2 hours, and the customer said, what are y'all here for? Okay, so I think that got better. They started qualifying better. Imagine that. An AE, I'm not picking on the AEs, but you got to pick up the phone and say, why are we coming? And that sort of gets me in the expectations. I'm not making my SEs do anything, but I'm asking my SEs, always call the customer before you go. Call the customer. And that goes into sort of into this ICAO scheduling. Now that meeting makers going away, so what they're doing, they have to have in their ICAO the note section, why I'm going, what I'm supposed to do, and then call people. And the SE is supposed to call, the SE calls the customer. If, in fact, it does not happen, the AE will tell me, and I will tell this RM. It's got to happen. We cannot have you guys going out in these territories absolutely blind and getting blindsided. They don't understand sometimes that you have to prepare. And I want my SEs, I basically would like them to be in their office on Fridays, wrapping up, getting ready for the next week. Hit the road Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. No, that would be Tuesday and Thursday. But, is it fair? And this happens to me because you guys are all, a lot of you just do trains, don't you? Trains and stuff. Yeah, we have cars. So, bicycles and horses. But think, there's nothing more irritating to me when I see one of my SEs get in at 10 o'clock at night, driving in from a call, and the AE's out playing golf at 5. That really irritates me. And that tells me that there's bad planning somewhere going on in scheduling. SEs in my territory, I have them pushing back. And if anything happens, then that's I'll take it. I want them to be in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. So now that he's got that focus, I'm gonna walk over here.
Hey, Ken,
Yes.
could you clarify the ICAL scheduling?
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so well, number one, a lot of people, the A's will look at the calendar and they'll say something is open.
Oh, looking at the SE's calendar.
Yeah. And they'll say something's open, but sometimes I got them where they'll call. But if they schedule, say, 9:30 at a certain place, and after they've already talked about it, they get the details of what's going on there. And it's that notice, the SE. AE types it in and then invites him to the meeting. And then and there's two things happening here. I see all the SE notes too.
So the AE is providing the contact information, an agenda,
Yeah.
and that's being shot out to the.
Yeah, and it's in that note section on the icon.
How can we make our AEs use ICAL? I'm serious, I'm not trying to throw a can of worms, but only one of my AEs out of 3 years.
Well, that I can't address.
See, I get ICAL invites, but with none of this detail.
Yeah, I would love to know that.
So Dave,
Well,
Dave,
the thing that you gotta do is if you don't get it in iCal, you gotta get it either voicemail or email.
I told Steve this last week. I drove an hour out of my way last week to meet the superintendent. Per the AE's instructions, I get there, school was closed, the superintendent's out of town.
now let me just touch on that, Ken, because Mickey just sent out an email to his RM saying they've got to start using iCal, and also internally, product marketing has moved over to iCal right now. This like last week or 2 weeks ago, the whole company moves over in July.
Meeting Maker's gone.
So it's going to
But I
happen
think
sooner or later.
that's gonna be, but with the new iCal, with that note section in there, then as an SE manager, when I'm managing my territory, or if I have an RM call me up and he says, you know, where's your SE? He's not here. And I looked and I said, well, I'm looking at the schedule and your guys haven't scheduled. So he's probably sitting at home working, you know? So it helps me, you know, help you guys from the standpoint of this roundabout that we have to do.
See, I get a lot of iCals, in fact, several a day, with zero information.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, actually, it's just, hey, are you free?
Yeah.
Well, I'm never free, but
I'm very expensive.
I'm very excited.
That's something you have to work out with your AE, and these are things that I've watched my SE team go through, and then in our meetings we talk about it, and I'm able to. The other thing, I've been with this same team for nearly 7 years, the AEs, and you know I've got the new ones I have to train, but the older ones all pretty well know how to function with the SEs.
Having set of information that's required will probably make a big difference.
Well, it makes a big difference in your day-to-day activity. This is always interesting because I always look at the star salesman. And when you have, I try to get the people to stay in areas, okay? You divide your area up, it's a milk route. This is A, B, C, and D. It could be anywhere. This could be New York State, this could be Rhode Island, whatever. But stay in that area, okay? In a given week, we have the star salesman. He's here, 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 and here. That's the star salesman. He's all over the place and not focusing in one area. So therefore, you guys, as it is, what's happening to you. You're all there following him all over the place. I've got some guys with 6,000 miles in 1 month. Okay, now, divide that by 70 miles an hour. That's 100 hours wasted productivity being a star salesman. Or star SC, following the star salesman. So try to stay in this area. And what happens, they're so appointment hungry and not, you know, thinking strategy that they'll get a call down here, they'll drive down here just to make that call. When they can call up and say, you know, I'll be there in 2 weeks, or I'll be there in a week, or I'll be there, you know, when I can work. But get one call here, get more, and some people are doing good on that. They're starting to really zero in. But that's what I've always looked at as star salesman. Now I think, I'm not quite sure of this next slide, but I think it's my, well, it's my interpretation of an acquisition, see, AE. This is an acquisition. Oh, it's no sound to it. Snake, right? Not but a snake. Uh-oh. Here comes our acquisition. Whoa! He keeps going back. Look at him. He's not giving up.
Oh my.
That's a good salesman.
He has very big teeth.
You ever seen a rabbit tree of snake? No, I was a friend of mine. So anyway, that to me is an acquisition guy. He just doesn't give up. He just got to keep going and going. A lot of the other core people too. So who are we? And I want to wrap this up. We're really a technology resource broker. We're the key relationship owner in the accounts and consultative salesperson. That's a lot. You know, we're just not, you know, the engineers. We have to be part salespeople. That's why we have the pre-sales engineer in there to go through. And the big idea advocate. You're in these accounts more than some of these guys are. You can see the big picture and sell them on the big picture. They may not see that. You know, calling on an IT director. You know, the salespeople are so scared of that. And I never could understand, because if they're good consultative salesmen, they would never worry about that. I am not technical. I was selling application development software, and I didn't know what a bit was. You know, I mean, I knew nothing about it. But I go into an IT director, and I get him talking. I'd ask him questions, and boy, if I could ever get him up on the board drawing his architecture, I had him. I had him. Because why? Why would he draw his architecture? He's so proud of it. And I've asked him, he said, show me your architecture. And then I was looking at, where are your problems? If I can help, would you be interested? Nope, no SE's with me. He says, yes. I said, well, let me get back with my SE and have him call you. And let's see if we can go forward. Why can't our salespeople make those simple calls? Okay. They're scared to death that technical guys can ask some sort of question they don't have an answer for. But if they're doing consultative selling, they'll never get there. So it's up to us to be that big advocate. Now, the next big thing, what we shouldn't do with our priority time. Okay, time on specific area of interest. We have to watch that. Some of them just really love Final Cut Pro. You'll study it, but remember, we're balanced all the way around. The other thing we shouldn't do, we shouldn't be geeking up. Okay? We need to do, but we got to watch it. By the way, these two pages, the last one, this one came from the 3 RMs. I asked, would you see it in an SE? And always fixing problems. We got to sell, we're pre-sales. We got to sell our services, which we're doing a pretty good job. And perception of sales, I think, in the end, at the end of that day, at the end of those sales calls, there's only one view that matters. There's only one perspective, perception that matters. And that's that person right there. And we have to blend into their perception. We have to blend into their buying motives. What is their buying motive? Everybody's got a different buying motive. Now this fellow here has got a buying motive. I don't do that. Anyway, this guy was hunting, and that hog was eating his corn.
You can
So that's competition for you. So basically what happened, you know, the guy was out deer hunting, and the pig was eating his corn, and so he snuck him. So anyway, yes, sir.
Ken, I have a question for you. How do you measure success on I know we measure success in terms of sales goals on a 10,000 foot perspective. How do you measure success on an appointment or a per customer basis in the short term? I.e., how do I, when I walk out of an appointment, assess whether or not that was a worthwhile use of my time?
Well, when I make a call with the AE and the SE sometimes, or just the SC, we come out and debrief after the call. We'll go have a cup of coffee. And then if I'm working with salespeople, I will say, they'll make a call, and then I'll say, let me make the next one. You know, just to see, you know, and I may make one and just maybe talk about how I'm going to go about it with the flow. But debriefing after a call is the most important, because the SC, the AE he or she may be off base, but you may be off base too. So when you sit down and say, how did I do? Then he may say, no, never talk about pricing. Don't talk about pricing. And we always teach everybody not to talk about pricing, but it may be something else. But then you may go back to AE and say, did you notice when you asked that question, how it turned? Or if you should have asked this question. So if you debrief after the call, you're going to understand better as a team on how to work. And once you start working with people as a team, you'll know who's going to step in and who's going to do that. But as far as an assessment, that, not being a sales manager, I don't know how many calls people are making a day. The SEs, I can look at that, but that sometimes they're by themselves or with somebody else. It's hard. Sales is the units, or the revenue. It's easy to measure salespeople. It's very hard to measure anybody that's in this objective role like we're in. Now the thing that will get you is if you get a lot of customer complaints, or you get AE complaints. And then I have had to go back in and defend my SE with an AE, and then with that information I have, the calendar. I said, well, how many calls are you making? What did the SE miss that you didn't do? So they're wrong. Well, maybe I was wrong. There's a monkey theory you always have to remember about salespeople. When I was a sales manager, I used to put my hand, they come in about quota. Y'all sit in their cars with them, right? Well, you're driving with the salespeople. You hear them call, you sometimes do. You hear them.
You ever met the cars?
Well, what will happen, and I did the same thing myself, man, I hate my quota, I hate my territory, I hate my product. You wonder, well, why are you working here? But I was the same way. I go in, and if I talk long enough, I talk myself into everything's okay. So that was my monkey theory when I was a sales manager. I'd come in, the guy would sit in, he'd come in, and he'd just start, and I'd put this hand down, I listen. All these little monkeys were looking at that. About that time, I just put this hand down, and he didn't even know it, and all the monkeys ran back in his back, because he answered his own question. And I have found out that it's so true, because they love what they do, but they get so wrapped up in the day-to-day stuff they shouldn't be worried about. Quota's not going to go down. Product's not going to change. 10.5.3 is not going to be here.